Happy Saturday. Hope everyone is doing well on today. You see in the title, we're talking about redefining wealth. Redefining wealth. This topic came up for me a couple times throughout the week. Once I was on a walking trail and thinking about it, and I just wrote down redefining wealth. And so today I want to talk about it. I believe that a huge part of next level, especially for us as women. Hi, Ruby, how are you on Instagram? A huge part of redefining wealth for us as women or us getting to the next level is redefining what we think wealth looks like. Redefining what we think wealth looks like. I'm kind of giving it a few minutes to bring everyone in. I'm going to put a title on Instagram and then we're going to get rocking and rolling. One of the huge shifts for me, and let me pin this comment, was redefining what I thought wealth looked like. I had this impression of what a person who was wealthy looked like. I had this impression of what I felt being wealthy actually consisted of. Now, I've made my own personal definition of wealth, and it's probably inclusive in some studies that you may do as it relates to wealth, but I believe that wealth is three-part, right? Spiritual, tangible, and well-being. I believe it's the whole thing. But one of the things I think we often do is we remove the money part. That's the tangible part. There's this tendency to downplay wealth as if it doesn't include money, right? You'll hear people say, well, being rich or being wealthy isn't always about money. No, it's not, but it is inclusive. And so one of the first shifts you're going to have to make if you're desiring to go to the next level, if you desire, more wealth and abundance in your life, is redefine what you feel wealth consists of. It does include money. Now, I understand when life flips on you, or maybe something doesn't go as you thought it would, it's really easy to say the money doesn't matter, but it is a part of wealth. And it's something, especially women, I feel need to like redefine wealth and then solidify what they think wealth is for a few reasons. One, when we have the thought that wealth only looks a certain way. So maybe we think wealth only, has designer on, or wealth is only in driving, a luxury car. If we have defined that, a woman who is wealthy wears her hair a certain way or always wears a certain type of clothing. If we have defined wealth, and you gotta go within and really ask yourself, um, what have I decided that wealth looks like? And one of the reasons this is so important is because until you redefine what wealth actually is, it's really easy to feel you don't qualify. It's really easy to feel, well, I don't look like that, or I don't desire to do those types of things. And those are the things that wealthy people do. Or, for instance, it may be a certain restaurant or a certain environment that you may not feel you qualify for because maybe you don't have some of the physical attributes or some of the material things that you think it requires in order to be wealthy. You have to redefine what wealth looks like. I want to share a couple things with you all that really shifted for me, and this happened early, right? This began happening early for me, even as a child. When I began to really shift my mind about money and wealth building, and what I really wanted for my life, I began to think about the people in my life that I knew who actually had money. I'm not talking about who we saw their riches all of the time, but people who actually had money, the people I knew who owned 37 properties, the people I knew who had become a millionaire, multiple millionaire in several areas in their 30s, the people I knew who owned commercial buildings and um, houses and all of those things. And I began to realize that many of the real life people that I knew who had acquired a measure of wealth looked nothing like what has been shown on, especially social media, but even television. Nothing like it. So I remember when I was thinking about people who owned a lot of property. One, when I owned a brick and mortar service based business for about 10 years prior to what I do now as a coach and consultant. And my landlord drove a station wagon, guys. He drove a station wagon. He had amassed so much wealth. He had commercial buildings that large corporations were renting out, like Sprint would rent out his buildings, right? And you would never know riding down the street that he had nearly as much money as he had. He would have, he would invite me over to his home, my daughter and I, and talk to me about stocks and the stock market. He gave me the connection for his investment banker, things like that. But you would never know it because of the car that he drove. Now, it really made me take another look at people in my family who just had different habits with their money than some of the people that I saw who would need to borrow money from other people. I hope this is making sense for you guys. I had to redefine what wealth looked like and began to understand that it didn't always show on the outside. It wasn't always riding in a luxury car. I went to look at a piece of property on yesterday, and the gentleman who owned the property was telling me, we were just having a general conversation and talking about my daughter going to college. She graduates from high school 2023. And I asked him, I said, do you have children in college? And he said, let me tell you a story. And I knew a piece of wisdom. I knew he wanted to share a piece of wisdom. He said, someone shared with me many, many years ago that as soon as my children were born, to begin saving for their college. Long story short, he said he had put 4 children through college with no financial aid and no loans or debt by the time that they had finished, right? He owned a major farm. Do you guys hear me? And several pieces of property. We got on the subject of debt, and he was sharing that he didn't have any debt, and I shared that I was debt free as well. Then we got on the subject of buying cars, and he said, do you know when people buy cars, they end up spending about almost double the amount of what they're paying? And I said, yeah, I do. So I told him about a situation where I was sharing with someone that they could have purchased 2 cars had they just saved the money and bought the vehicle right out, right? And so there are a lot of things that appear to be wealthy, but they may not be wealthy moves based on where you are at a particular time in your life. And so I want you to think about, what is your idea of wealth? What is your idea of wealth? Because whatever your idea of wealth is, that is how you will live out, your life. That is what you will do. I listened to a young lady who, she and her husband are multi millionaires, and they moved into this beautiful home in this beautiful neighborhood. It's number 2 in most expensive neighborhoods in the state that they live in. And she dresses really nice. She wears a lot of college. I saw College Bound come up. It must be meant for me to speak to you, College Bound. Hey there on Instagram. She wears a lot of designer clothes and things like that, but she earns about 10 million or more per year. But she was talking about wealth, and she said, what most people think wealth is not. She said, even the money that she and her husband makes, now the money I mentioned for her, making 10 million or more per year, is separate from the millions that her husband makes. And when they moved into this neighborhood, she said, I was the most overdressed person in the neighborhood, and we are the least wealthy in the neighborhood. Is this making sense to you guys? She said that these people had tons of, so much more money than she and her husband have, and they were doing well. But one of the things she shared was that she lives off of what people see is her riches, not her wealth. They don't live off of their wealth. And if we have an idea, whatever our idea is about wealth, concerning wealth, is how we will attempt to live out our lives. So I want to talk about redefining wealth and some of the shifts that I personally had to make in my own life as I continue to pursue financial freedom, transitioning from my brick and mortar service based business I owned for about 10 years. And I now coach and consult with amazing women around the world, helping them step into their personal power, scale their businesses, and create a lifestyle they love. There were definitely some wealth shifts I had to make. So, in my previous career as a brick and mortar business owner, I was still in the space of trading my time for dollars. So, when I make 4 and 5 figures in a day now, it's it's completely different from the mindset that I had before. Does this make sense for you all? So I had to make some shifts about how I thought money could be earned. That was one of the big shifts I had to make as it related to redefining wealth. I had to get out of the space of thinking that all of my time had to be contributed to me earning money. And for a lot of coaches and service providers, that mindset is still there as you're attempting to build your business. So what that may look like is undercharging for your services. It may look like you packing out a program or course to the point where people are actually overwhelmed. They're not really getting results. It may look like you taking on anyone as a client, and then you end up with clients who don't do the work. And so you never get credit for it, right? Because they're not in a position, they're not in alignment to even do the work that you're asking them to do. So you get no results. You may have gotten that one-time exchange from the customer, um, because they signed up for the course or your coaching program or whatever the case may be, but they didn't get results. And then years later, you see them signing up, paying thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars more for almost the same information that you gave them, but they barely remember it, right? Because they didn't do the work. And so, one of the redefining things that you can do as a coach or a service provider, especially when you're creating your courses or creating your masterminds and coaching programs, is qualifying clients. Someone put that in the comments, even if you're coming back on after the replay, qualifying your clients. Like, are they in alignment for the program that you have? Are they really going to do the work? Are they going to implement? Are they going to get results? Or is it just going to be that one time thing? Because what that has you doing is constantly chasing clients. You have to redefine what wealth looks like. So, those are some of the things, just as a coach and a service provider, as it relates directly to how you're offering your services and your prices. You have to think about what you're building differently. The number two thing you need to do to redefine wealth as a coach or service provider, trainer, teacher, is have a plan. Now, if you follow me long enough, you know I talk about feminine energy and being in alignment and being able to manifest things. But a huge part of you being able to manifest or even collapse time. And when I talk about collapsing time, I'm talking about earning more money in a shorter amount of time. So maybe what normally would take you 3 years will take you 3 months. That's collapsing time, right? But even in the space where you become an energetic match for what it is that you desire, you have to have a plan. You have to know what it is that you desire, what it is that you want, and what direction your business is heading. One of the biggest mistakes I've seen, I opened my coaching and consulting business in 2012 from a part-time space. So I still owned my brick and mortar service-based business at that time, but full-time, I've been doing it a little under 5 years. If we do all of the years, it will be a decade, since I opened. And one of the biggest um, things I see or shifts I see that need to be made is to have a plan. So many people open their business and they have this idea that they just want to earn a lot of money. And so in their mind, they just say, I'm going to earn a lot of money. But there's no real plan. There's no system. There's no consistency. And what happens with this is the moment that you see someone else doing something and getting some results, you change. You change your branding, you change directions, you shift gears. And so a plan is super important. Even if you're wanting to collapse time or manifest, you have to have something to calibrate to, right? To align your thoughts and your plans with. And you have to redefine your idea of wealth. I remember saying that I was going to retire at 35. I didn't. And at that time, when I said it, I was in my 20s, but I didn't have a plan. I didn't have numbers and things on paper that said, well, this is what you'd have to earn in a certain amount of time. My goal initially was simply to work really hard. How many of you know that working hard means absolutely nothing if you're working hard on the wrong things? Working hard means absolutely nothing if you're working hard on the wrong things. And that's where my mindset was. I was like, I'm just going to work. I'm just going to get more customers. But what's the goal? Is it realistic? The numbers that you're shooting for, are they realistic? Right? Is that $1 million goal realistic from the cost of your coaching program? Or how many one-to-one coaching clients do you have to do to get to that? How long would it even take you to get to that with the current business model, that you have to redefine what your idea of wealth is. Another shift you'll need to make is to move from the space of just enough. My goodness. Move from the space of just enough. Now, this space is a space that many people don't necessarily recognize that's what they're in, but their goal is to meet the bills for the month. That's just enough. I need just enough to get my kids through school or whatever the case may be. But that is a huge shift you have to make. You have to redefine what your idea of wealth is. When you think about wealth, it is abundance, it is more than enough. So you have to recalibrate, you have to remove some of the subconscious thinking that you have about just enough, because if not, your goals, your actions, and everything that you do will be in alignment with just enough. Somebody put that in the comments. You have to move from the space of just enough. Redefining wealth. There are studies that show that a third of people, now I could be wrong about that number, but it's a huge amount of people who are considered under earners. Under earners. And oftentimes, this is where they have the potential to earn more. Listen, you guys hear me. They have the potential to earn more, but they don't. And it's attached to, now, you guys know I work from the inside out. So I believe that all of your next level is attached to the inner work that you're willing to do, right? And so most people who under earn are dealing with self-worth. And it will roll over into every area of your life. One of the things I decided was that I was no longer going to settle. Many years ago, I made that decision. I was no longer in any area of my life. And this is why when people are wanting to get in alignment, this is the month of August, the month of alignment. When people are wanting to get in alignment with their higher goals, they're still in the space of settling in certain areas in their life. And so they're not in alignment. They're not a match. Does that make sense? They're not in alignment. They are not a match. And most oftentimes, it's tied to self-worth, the pricing, whether or not you will show up for your services that you're wanting to do is normally tied to self-worth. The next shift you'll have to make is to stop choosing the lesser option. How many times, especially if you're a mom, do you choose the lesser option and you decide, I'm going to do this for my spouse or my daughter or my job, my boss, or my friends, and I'll just take the lesser option? That's energy, guys. That's energy. You have to redefine. Remember, wealth is a space of abundance, whether it's your spiritual wealth, your tangible, which is your money, or your well being. This may look like I'm going to be super mom, but I'm going to put my self care on the back burner. All of it is energy that will show up in your business. It'll show up in the efforts that you're making in your life and your business. Here's another thing that you need to do, right? Your goals need to expand. There's some people who are saying, I want to earn like another $1,000 or $2,000 a month. But does that really match? Okay, so I'm not saying that $1,000 or $2,000, 2,000 extra dollars a month would not be beneficial. I am not saying that at all. But if you have desires in your heart to retire your parents, if you have desires in your heart to buy your parents a home, if you have desires in your heart to buy your children a home, send your children to college with no loans, debt free, if you have larger goals like that, would 12,000 extra dollars a year do it? And if it would, how many years would it take you? Right? And so you have your goals need to expand. We're redefining wealth today. Your goals need to expand. They need to expand. Like, realistically, how much would it take to retire your parents? I shared my retirement story with you all when I was in my 20s. I had this big idea. I'm retiring at 35. And at 28, I was like, I just don't think I'm going to make it at by 35 the way that I'm going. But initially at that time, I didn't have a real plan. I hadn't done any numbers. I didn't know what it looked like. So what I did was I just continued to work harder and harder and harder. Guys, can I tell you, it gets to be easy when you make those shifts, when you make the necessary mental shifts, because it's all mental at first. Wealth begins in your mind before it comes into your hand, before it manifests in your life. It has to manifest in your mind. And oftentimes you have to redefine what wealth looks like. I've been really busy with my daughter's schooling this first week of school. Uh, she'll be going to college next year. So we're just making sure she's got all the credits that she needs to qualify for certain scholarships, dual enrollment, for her last year, and being enrolled in a college in the area to get college credits. So we've been doing a lot of talking to counselors and, just a lot of different things. And there's been so many times this week, guys, that I just stopped everything that was going on in my head, right? And just kind of sat in a space of gratitude. Because I realized that me being able to be that available, literally at her school every day for hours, looking at the people like, I got time. I have time. No worries. I can wait. Understanding that that is a privilege. And not because I had like this wealthy person that gave me all this money. I became the wealthy person, and I became the wealthy person in my mind first, right? Deciding what I wanted my life to look like, deciding how I wanted my business to run, deciding that I wanted time freedom. I wanted a time rich business, as well as me earning great money. I wanted time freedom. I wanted that freedom. And I just sat in a moment of gratitude several times because I was able to be there and do that with ease. I wasn't moving anything around, or, I just was able to do that. And so just redefining, what does wealth look like for you? When I began to create what I wanted my life to look like, I included everything, giving me time for self-care. I've walked the walking trail 2 to 3 times this week. I've been able to just be out, just being, right, comfortably. And so redefining what wealth looks like often is attached to a vision, one that you are centered in, one that you've decided, yes. All right. Here's another thing. You need a never again list. As you're redefining wealth, you need a never again list. I remember going through a season of financial stress and struggle. And it was at that moment that I said, never again. Never again will I be in this position. When I was married for 14 years, and when a part of our divorce decree was who would keep the home. Like, I could keep the home, refinance it, give him the buyout, or I could choose to allow him to refinance the home, give me a buyout. And for most women, they would have just stayed. It was comfortable, right? But nothing there aligned with this vision that I had. So I had to be willing to make some moves and take some calculated risk that I wouldn't ordinarily make. I hope this is making sense, right? Hey, Christina, how are you, dear? So in the decision, with my divorce, me deciding to just pop up and move to another, because it was connected to my vision, I have absolutely no regrets, because I understand that it's some of the risks that we won't get in alignment with that are going to keep us in the position that we are currently in. So when you're redefining wealth, if you don't have a vision that you have connected to fully, you will continue to make decisions that keep you at the same level in your life, right? And so you need a never again list. And because I had this never again list, never will I be in this position again, I knew it required me to take some calculated risk. I knew I couldn't keep always making the super safe moves if I wanted to get to my next level. So you need a never again list. What are some things that you would put on your never again list? Never again will I do this. Never again will I be in this position. And I know people say never, but your never again list is like your standards. It becomes this thing that you are not in alignment for. Does that make sense? When we're talking about manifesting and collapsing time, you have to notice some of the patterns and choices and decisions that you make and how you make them, right? Because as you're, manifesting and you're wanting things to um, transpire in your life, you'll start seeing things that are actually the counterfeit of what you desire. My gosh. They're actually the counterfeit of what you desire. Like, it's got some of the things that you want, but then it has a whole lot of other stuff that you don't want. What's on your never again list, right? You also need an abundance account number. You need an abundance account number. And what I mean by that is you have an account that you say, I'm never not going to have this much in my account. I'm never going to not have this much in my account. And ever so often that number should raise, right? And what this means for many of you, because there's different sectors of, earning wealth, and many people will get to the space of saving money, right? But never investing, which always keeps you at a certain like space. But the goal needs to become, how do I earn more money? Even especially if you're thinking about it gets to be easy. Many people will become a hermit, right? And just not spend that all and all of the things, or either they just overspend on the wrong things, but never really in alignment with increasing the abundance that's coming into their life. A lot of it, I talked about people being under earners, and that was oftentimes attached to self-work, and it shows up, in your coaching business, in your training business, in your service-based business. It shows up in those areas. But when you think about, your abundance number and increasing that, and you're saying it gets to be easy, then that means, how can I get in alignment to receive more money in my life? How can I earn more money in my life? Right? Not necessarily, how can I cut back on everything and, kind of live like a hermit? So I want to talk about the spiritual growth stages that I talked about, but I want to do it as it relates to redefining wealth. So we talked about the self-aware sis and the standard sis. Let's talk about some of the moves and the things that the self-aware sis and the standard sis is making that will not move her into spaces of wealth. It feels like it. She feels that way, but it won't move her into the space of wealth. She's trying to be super mom. I know this doesn't sound like money, but she's trying to be super mom without taking care of herself. And one of the things that shows is that oftentimes she puts herself on the back burner. Everyone in her life comes before her. Listen, I always say you cannot pour from an empty cup. Can't pour from an empty cup. And this same energy will roll over into her business if there are some things that she needs to do in her business for the next level, not the stuff that she's always doing that gives her the same results, but those newer, higher, more abundant goals and thoughts. It often goes on the back burner as well because it is what, guys? What is it? It's energy. It's all the same. The way you do one thing will be the way that you do everything. This is why I say oftentimes what's transpiring in your personal life will roll over into your business. The standard sis or self-aware mom, she may spend 20 hours a week researching what to do next in her business. Researching. Right? And then we have the manifesting princess. This is the next stage of spiritual growth. She's moved out of that stage. She's redefining her wealth. You know what she does? She spends about 5 hours deciding who has the answers that I need because she's collapsing time on everything. Right? So she finds out who has the information, where can I invest to make this happen quicker, sooner, faster? Because those 20 hours a week that the standard sis or the self-aware sis is spending researching, she's doing it for years. And we're talking about abundance and a collapsing time and redefining wealth. Another thing the standard sis or self-aware sis is doing, she spends hours finding ways to cut costs. I kind of touched on that just a little bit, as opposed to finding ways to earn more money. Man, that's a whole shift right there, guys. If you can get in alignment with just that alone, that is an entire mental shift to make, as opposed to finding more ways to cut costs. Spend shorter amount of time finding ways to earn more money. Right? Now, hold on 1 second, guys. Y'all so patient, but y'all know this live. So when we think about relationships and people that we are, connected to, the standard sis, the self-aware sis, now you guys know I've been divorced now for maybe about 4 years. And there were some things that I just simply decided, because you remember I said I'm not settling in any area. Prior to me ever even getting my divorce, this is going through my separation. And one of them was deciding how I would date. I didn't know what it was called or if there was a name for it or whatever the case may be, but it is called rotational dating. And what self-aware sis and standard sis is doing in her life is she is fulfilling a lot of wifely duties to someone who is her boyfriend. He's been her boyfriend for a year and a half to 3 years. She's playing stepmom, cooking dinners, inviting him over to her place every week to eat the food. And, he may do something for her, take her out here or there, but he's getting all of the privileges, right? Without her actually receiving fair compensation. And I know this is redefining wealth, but you have to understand that all of that is an energy, as opposed to the manifesting princess who is going on several dates or using her time and energy for herself. She's not over giving in order to prove that she's valuable enough to be in someone's life, right? Not with no real commitment, right? It could show up the same way in a job. So there's talk about, you possibly getting a raise. So you start staying 50, 60 hours, a week and doing all of this extra stuff, all to find out that someone else gets the raise and you never even ask about, whether you qualify or asking for a raise. All of it is energy. All of it is internal things that have to shift, that help us in redefining what wealth looks like. Remember, I said it's spiritual, it's tangible. That is your money. We do have to include the money. We have to stop overlooking the money part of it. And then our well-being is a part of it as well. Now, the manifesting princess, this is the one who has stepped into a new level of trust. It takes it in order to move to a new level in wealth. She's not trying to be super mama. One of the things I began doing with my daughter really early, when we would come home from school, I would pick her up from school. I said, I need a few minutes. Can't bombard me with those things. My daughter can cook now. The nights I don't feel like cooking, she can cook. She's been washing her own clothes since she was 9 years old. Yeah. So delegating is something that a woman has to do when she's redefining her wealth, because you cannot do it all. And a lot of times we've been taught that we aren't good mothers or, good wives if we don't do everything while everybody else is on the couch flipping the remote or hanging with their friends or doing all the things, and we're working and then coming home and doing all the things. No, redefining what does wealth look like to you and being okay with it, right? The the manifesting princess, when you move out of this stage, the standard sis, the self-aware sis, she makes extra money with ease. She charges premium for her services. She understands. She's not just regurgitating information out to everybody. Does this make sense? And then feeling as if she's gotten taken advantage of because she didn't have anything in place to be able to charge for her services. She's giving people investment advice and all these things, and they're going and doing the investments, right? This is what standard sis or self-aware sis would do. The other people would be doing the investments, and the standard sis or self-aware sis would just be giving out advice, but not taking the leap of faith or leaps of faith that's needed in her own life. But the manifesting princess is doing that. She's moving out on faith. She is investing to get whatever it is that she needs. But this is one of the reasons, because she trusts that she's going to implement and do the work. Standard sis, self-aware sis, there's a lack of trust. I hope you guys see how all of this is connected. Your energy is everything. Shifting your energy, your mindset, and your thoughts is going to be huge for you redefining what wealth looks like in your life. And so the biggest question I want to ask you on today is, what is your idea of wealth? Do you need to redefine what you thought wealth looked like, or what you thought that wealth, what you feel that wealth is, in order to step into a new measure of wealth? You guys see my t-shirt, it says She Prospers Coach. And this is actually, you guys see this little thing right here. So this was a sample t-shirt that I'd had made, and I thought I sent the transparent one where you couldn't see all of that, but I wear it. Right? I wouldn't give it to anyone, but I wear it. But I am hosting the She Prospers Live Intensive for the new year. So it will be January the 14th in Raleigh, North Carolina. I have one more second, guys. Goodness. I have allergies. I think I've been telling you guys that. And so sometimes they doing different stuff. But that event is, I'm so excited about it. It is January the 14th. It's in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I have 3 spaces for someone who is a fast action taker that will get it at a really, really, really good price. And then the offers will be early offers. and then it will go to regular price. So for those of you who want to join us, you can go to renewfullcircle.com/SP live. Let me see if I have a banner for that. I think this is it here. Let's see. Yeah, that's it there. A 1-day intensive in Raleigh, January the 14th for the new year. We're going to be talking about abundance and shifting your mindset, redefining what wealth looks like in your life, preparing yourself for the new year so that you're in alignment with higher goals. A lot of it is changing what's transpiring in your subconscious thinking, right? I'd love to see several of you in person. It is going to be a limited amount. Lunch will be included. When you invest, you will get the location, the actual location and address to where that event is. But it's going to be really, really nice. And we're shifting to a more abundant state. We're redefining what wealth looks like for that particular event. And I'm super, super excited. I think it's, a really, really great way to start off the new year, right? Stepping into abundance, getting in alignment, being in a position where we can collapse time because it happens from the inside out. And so remember, your wealth actually happens here before it ever manifests here. It happens here before it ever manifests here. So what is it? What is your idea of wealth? How does it need to be redefined? You'll need a never again list, right? Remember, then you need that abundance account number, which oftentimes means how do I earn more money, less my effort, right? You got to get in the energy of that. That's my take on today. I hope that you guys have found value in this. If you come back on the replay, say hello. Let me know you've been on. Type in your ahas, what spoke to you. I'd love to see you guys in Raleigh, North Carolina. There's only 3 spaces for the fast action offer. Really, really good rate for that. And then after that, it will go to the early offer. And then after that, it will change to its regular cost. And so you'll come and spend a good 5 to 7 hours with us that day, just, really shifting your mindset about abundance and wealth and being in the energetic energy and space of those who are calibrating to new levels as well. I got some good things planned for us on that day. I'm super excited. Redefining wealth. That's my take. You guys have a good one. Peace.